Hey guys, Suffer here. Welcome to part 4 of the tutorial, takeoff and initial climb. First things first, I'm going to get you to double check that your thrust levers are set correctly in accordance with the airplane. So if you're like me and you have Thrustmaster TCA thrust levers, you'd want to configure them, otherwise they're not going to do what you want them to do. So you go to options in your EFB, open throttle settings, and then you want to reset calibration, then click begin calibrate. Okay, and it will tell you, just like it's listed here, it will tell you by starting with set max reverse thrust, you'll click that, and then you'll set to max idle thrust, and then you'll click that, and then you'll select it to thrust idle, and then you'll click that, and then you'll set your thrust levers climb, you'll click that, and then you'll select it to flex, and so on, and then toga. But first, I must stress, you have to do it in this order: reset calibration, begin calibration, and follow what it's telling you to do to your thrust levers. Then after you've done that, you'll want to do it again on here, starting from the bottom, and then work your way up. One thing for this tutorial, you do not have to have Navigraph in order to follow this tutorial, but I'm opening up just to explain a few things. So we've got the transition altitude. Every airport has their own transition altitude set on the chart, which is 6,000 here. So we want to know when we're going to change our altimeters from QNH to standard, and our aircraft will blink QNH, it will flash at us here, and that's when we have to pull these to standard like this. Okay, so watch out for that. So to get started, we just want to make a few things. We want to check that our approach is clear. We can't see any aircraft out the window. We want to check that our transponder is set to TARA, so we can see our traffic and have any advisories to climb or descent. We want to check that our strobe and landing lights are on. So strobe we put on, landing lights on. And we want to set our nose to takeoff. So we're going to release our parking brake, and we're going to slowly, just tiny bit of thrust and then back to idle again, just to get us moving. We want to double check that our runway number is the runway we're supposed to depart from. So you would see 07. So this is 07 over here. So we are departing from the correct runway. Now, air traffic control would have told us something like a line up and wait. So we're going to line up and wait until we're clear for takeoff. Or they can clear us as we're moving, like here. But I'm just going to assume for the sake of the tutorial they've said line up and wait. And then we're going to set our parking brake once we feel like we are correctly lined up. So we want to have the runway center line in the center of this window, parking brake on. We want to keep an eye on here, annunciator, the flight mode annunciator. So as we're advancing our thrust levers, you will see it tell us something here. So we want to set it to 50% on the ECAM here. Just put a little bit until it goes to 50. And then we want to set flex straight after that. So flex will be this one here. Now, it's going to tell us man flex and the flex temperature, release the parking brake, and off we go. We also want to pitch down until we get to 100 knots, as our nose wheel steering will be more effective while we're pitching down, up until 100 knots. So we're at 80, 100, I'm going to put it neutral, the stick. And our blue, where it says 1, is our V1, so that's the point of no returns. And then the magenta, which is our rotate. So we're going to pull back on the stick. We're going to aim for pitching 15 degrees, positive rate. We're climbing, so we gear up. Aiming for 15 degrees here on our flight director. And SRS mode will be shown here on the annunciator, which is the speed reference system. Now we want to turn our autopilot on. And we're going to look out for thrust climb flashing at us on the annunciator. That's going to tell us when to advance our thrust levers into the climb mode. And here we go, it's blinking at us to climb. So we're going to put our thrust levers down to the climb mode. And as we're in managed speed, which is that dot here, our aircraft is going to follow the speed set, which has it here set to 250. Now the S means our slat speed. As we're approaching the S, we can put our flaps to 0. And now the aircraft will be targeting the 250 knots. And if we want to make sure that it's 250 knots, you see our next waypoint here says 250 with the magenta star. That's what it will be targeting. So we also wanted to put our speed brake down as soon as we put our flats up. Our speed brake to disarm, sorry, not down. We want to disarm our speed brake as soon as we did our flaps up. Now we're waiting for our transition altitude, which is 6,000, and that's when we'll get the blinking from the QNH, and we'll set it to standard. I'm just setting our altitude to 11,000 just for the sake of leveling off at 5,000, which our approach chart told us to initial climb to 5,000. We're doing the Mach 2 Charlie departure. So here it says max 5,000 feet initial climb. So I'm making us climb higher to 11,000 for now, just for the sake of the tutorial. So I adjusted that here in the FCU. Our plane is following and holding 250 knots as it's managed. We're getting flashing here because we've passed our transition altitude 6,000. So we're going to pull our barometers, all 3 of them, and make sure it's a standard, because that's the 1013 hectopascals ISA, which once you go above transition altitude, all aircraft will follow that calibration. We'll also do the same to our backup, and then we cross check all 3 of them are in standard. So once we've done that, we're expecting our aircraft to increase its speed above 250 knots once we go above flight level 10, and that will be our speed restriction everywhere. Is once you are below 10,000 or at 10,000 or below, you must be at 250 knots or less. As soon as you go above, see, our aircraft now wants to climb to its program speed, which is 286, which is the orange star, and that's what it's trying to target, off above 10,000. I'm going to set our climb to our 27,000 feet cruise altitude. So I'm just going to make sure our aircraft goes to our maximum cruising altitude. And we have it set here, flight level 270 blue, and we would check that with the first officer, and that's what we set on our STU, and that's what our plane is trying to do. So this screen is telling us what our plane is actually doing. Don't use this to check what our plane is doing, because that's what we've told our plane, and sometimes whatever we tell our plane, it doesn't always do, so we want to cross-check it here. So we want to retract our landing lights, retracted, and our nose light to off, runway turn off light also. We also want to make sure, when safe to do so, to turn our seatbelt signs off. So seatbelt sign is in auto. Now I want to explain quickly what our EFIS buttons are. This is our EFIS panel. So if I want to change my mode here and zoom out, we can do so here. And I've got it set to constraints, so it tells us what our speed restrictions are. So here it says above 5,000 in magenta. That's all your restrictions. Sometimes you'll have 250 knots, 220 knots if there's a speed restriction, but our altitude restriction is here 5,000. There's airports, if you wanted to show our nearest airport, so we got here showing EGSS Stansted as our nearest, or we can set to VORs, our nearest VORs if we wish to do so, but I prefer to have it on constraints, so we don't want to be breaking any rules here. Now I have to also explain, when flying through moisture, for example going through a cloud, we want to check our ECAM, and if our total air temperature, where it shows TAT, shows plus 10 degrees or less than minus, that's when we need our engine anti-ice. So we'll go up, turn on engine 1 anti-ice, turn on engine anti-ice 2. Then we want to check on our ECAM that it is activated. If I want to move forward here, I have a probe here if I want to check if there's any icing there. This is our icing probe. If there's ice build up there, then we want to set wing icing on, but because we don't have any icing on the probe, I don't need to worry about that. But I always have to keep in mind of this probe. And that comes the end of the tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for the next video where I'll be showing you cruise and approach preparation. Thank you.